my friend's mother. I was in her car. She was taking me to the airport, and I felt it coming. It just gush came out. Her entire seat was full of blood. And I know it sounds like when you talk about the different accidents and situations you go through when it comes to fibroids, it's not easy to hear, but it's not easy to hear because we don't talk about it. We don't consider it the norm. But in our culture, we need to change that perspective of keeping quiet when it comes to our menstrual cycle, because that's, to me, a part of removing the mental health issues that come along with having fibroids. And I think it will discontinue women from shutting down and separating themselves, because I separated from friends, family. I stopped dating. I stopped answering the phone. I stopped working. I stopped going to work out. I stopped like pushing my business. It's like nothing mattered anymore because I didn't understand what was going on with my body. And I felt like I had minimum options: myomectomy, hysterectomy. Let me cut your uterus out, or let me cut your stomach to remove the fibroids and place your uterus back in. That's scary to even think about. But if I didn't do that, I'll continue to have these accidents, and I'll continue to separate myself from everybody and stay enclosed. So it's hard to deal with when you've been told forever, especially like I said in our culture, keep it quiet when it comes to your menstrual cycle. I'm not keeping quiet anymore. And I don't want other women to keep quiet. And I'm so proud of the women that are a part of USA Fibroid Centers, because if you've heard their stories, a few of their stories, a lot of the situations are worse than mine. You know what I mean? I had a really bad case of fibroids, but there's women that can never conceive, you know? There's women that's still dealing with issues from fibroids because they constantly come back. They can't get rid of them. There's women that's had over 7, 8, 9 surgeries. I had one, and I have issues right now from my one. So I think the mental health process, I think it's something that will continue. And I'm glad I did my live on this, because I think you and I should talk about this continuously. I don't think it should be one conversation. I think this is something that I'm going to talk to my girl Cheryl about. You met Cheryl. That's my girl. But I'm going to talk to her about having more conversations on mental health, because that's something I feel we need while going through the process.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And, you know, we haven't even touched like how it impacts the other people in your life. I remember one of the stories was her son had to help take care of her, right? Like imagine what it does to a child, not really understanding what's going on with your mom, but you have to help take care of her. And so, you know, there's a domino effect, and it impacts so much in folks' lives when fibroids are happening. So what's most important is to educate folks. And there's a level of maturity that a lot of people got to have to talk about, you know, health issues of women, especially men who don't know what it is to be a woman and go through some of those things. So, you know, this is a conversation that needs to continue to happen, because that mental health is real, overall wellness is real, and I could just imagine what so many other folks have been through in terms of fibroids.
You know that fibroids have broken up, and I was talking to Dr. Shiloh before I talked to you, but we discussed how it has so much of an effect on relationships. Marriages has broken up because of it, but it's all because of lack of understanding when it comes to fibroids. If you don't talk to your partner and they have a lack of understanding, because think about it. If you're going through fibroids and you have situations where you're having a menstrual cycle 15 to 20 days out the month, clearly you're not sexually active with your partner. You don't want to be bothered. You have lack of energy. You need blood transfusions. Your hemoglobin is all the way off. And that was what was happening to me. So I'm like, before I put my partner through this, I just separated from him. Right. And still to this day, we didn't have a really big conversation on why I just bounced and left. But I just didn't think he wanted to deal with it. But I didn't even understand what I was going through. So how was I supposed to educate him? So I just left. So what do you think when it comes to relationships? My question, I guess, is how big do you think the impact is for men to understand what's going on with their partners? Or other women understand what's going on with their partners when they're going, because all women won't have fibroids. I was just told at least 80% of all women of all cultures will have fibroids, and fibroids exist mainly in African American women.
Right.
So, far as being a partner, if your wife had fibroids, how would you deal with it? How do you think the impact of you being knowledgeable will help her?
Yeah. So number one, kind of to your point of what you were sharing earlier around being able to talk about cycles, and that the culture of having conversations about the hard stuff, whether it's sex, cycles, anything hard, right? We were programmed not to run away because we're afraid what people are going to say. What I'm saying, we're afraid on how people are going to react, if we might lose somebody if we tell them something hard, right? And so we have to learn to have the hard conversations. Right. Now, when it comes to relationships, and your question that you just asked, it is, I would say it going on, right?
Yeah.
However, if they're not clear on what's going on, if they're not comfortable, and comfortable in a way where they're knowledgeable, comfortable, right? If they're not comfortable speaking about, like, it's hard to do that, and then they're dealing with so much internally. They're dealing with so much in their, like, their mindset is off, their heart set is off, their soul set is off, right? And so it's hard to be able to speak clearly about what's going on when you don't have a clue what's really going on. Then you're getting all of these false information, right? And now you're like, oh, this is going to be happening to me for the rest of my life. So making sure the individual who has fibroids is very clear on what's going on and knowledgeable on their options and knowledgeable on how to share with their partner, that's going to be critical. Because if not, the partner's going to be like, I just don't get it. I don't understand. And that relationship may do this instead of bringing them
Yes.
closer together.
I think therapy would help sort of with mental health with women that have fibroids, because I'm not the only one that pulled back from everybody, separated from their partner, family, friends. I'm not the only one that did that. I think there should be some type of therapy process that you have an option of taking, because it's like a pandemic. It's so many women have it, and it's just, okay, we'll cut it out of you and send you on your way. No, you have to still be mindful of the mental process that we go through.
Yeah.
And it took us, it took me months before I even went to see a doctor to figure out what was wrong with me. I had to faint, fall out, and bust my head before I was like, okay, it's time to go to the doctor. Clearly there's something seriously going on with me. But through that whole process of fibroids, there was never an option for therapy. And I really think that will play a part in helping the mental health process of fibroids. But,
Yeah.
that's just an
The
opinion.
the physical health and the mental health has been separate for so long,
It
right?
shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. So what it sounds like you're saying is there needs to be some type of partnership developed with doctors and maybe psychologists, psychiatrists, right, counselors, whatever it may be, so that during the process they're working on not only the physical of the fibroids but also the mental of the fibroids. So that's what it
Yep.
sounds like you're saying. That collaboration.
And I feel like that mental process will not only help inform women on how they're not alone, they don't have to suffer in silence. It will help them for the afterlife of dealing with fibroids. Yes, you can remove them, but I'll never forget what I went through.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that I let go of a situation I didn't have to let go of. I'll never forget the fact that I separated from my family and I should not have done that. You guys didn't find out until it was time for me to go to the doctor to have my surgery. And
Yeah.
by that time, you're like, what is fibroids? She having a surgery for what? Why is she having a surgery? So, of course, I'm sure my brothers, you and MJ, you guys were scared. Mama was terrified. And as my mother, she never even heard of fibroids until I got it.
Right.
But come to find out, it exists in grandmother supposedly had it. Cousin Tiffany supposedly had it. It was several people in our family that had fibroids, come to find out, because I started asking questions I wanted to know.
Yeah.
But nobody talked about it unless I asked.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Isn't that crazy? But this was a good conversation. I think the mental health process definitely should be talked about more. I think that we should go more in depth about mental health and, separate and break down, the how to deal with mental health, how to deal with mental health when it comes to fibroids, how to stray away from being stressed and depressed. I think that's something we should continue to talk about. So I'll talk to Cyril about that. I think this was a great conversation, brother, per usual. Thank you for talking to me on here, but we'll definitely have more conversations. Shout out to USA Fibroid Centers. And my next live is going to be with your wife, Dr. Brandy. She'll be back at 5:30. Yeah, she's gonna get really in depth when it comes to mental health. So thank you for talking to me, and we'll talk later, bro. Love you.
Love you too.
All right, bye.